Hello there, welcome back to History with Z. Are you ready for our next lesson? I hope you are because I know I am. Today's topic, we're going to be looking at the four causes that actually influence history for all times, even in our present day. So let's get started. So, usually with our history essays, they will always ask you about the four main causes. And the four main causes that influence society as a whole and that have an effect on the events that take place during the past, present, and future. We always have to look at the political, the economic, the social, as well as the intellectual. Especially when it comes to the French Revolution, they will always ask you to write an essay about these four causes that caused the French Revolution. But also in history in general, and even in our present time, we always have to evaluate these four main causes that will always be influenced by an event that happens in time. So I am going to break it down even further and also relate it back to South Africa because I mean, most of us in South Africa need to hear what I'm about to say. So let's get it started. Right. So, first aspect that will always be very important to any society all around the world, political. Now, what exactly does political mean? All right. Political stands for who is in power, who is in charge, who is your leader. Take me to your leader. Anyway, you have to know who is in charge, who is leading the society at that time, who is leading our society today. So, all these things we need to take into account because they are important. Your leader, whether it be a queen, whether it be a king, whether it be a politician, these people will always have an influence on you as the citizen of that country because whatever laws they put out there, whatever decisions that they make will always influence you, whether you like it or not, because that person is your commander. That person commands whoever, and they do. So, voting, guys, is so important. I'm going to get to that. But in fact, what you need to understand when they ask you in history, in your essay questions, what political aspects influenced that event, you always need to make sure that you are looking at who is in power, right? Let's move on to the next aspect. Right. So, second aspect is social. Okay. The social aspect always deals with how the people interact with each other. How do they get along with each other? How do they work with each other? Um, how do they play? Like how do people interact with each other in the social aspect? Okay, so history has proven that we've been through racism, we've been through anti-Semite, we've been through genocide. Throughout history, we've been through wars. So, really, as human beings, we need to look at how we actually interact with each other and what exactly is our problem. Where are we going wrong? But I will relate it more and narrow it down to South Africa specifically. But usually in your essays, they will always ask you how the people interacted with each other during that time. So also it plays a big role when there's a king and then the king's subordinates, and how is the hierarchy, in terms of that social construct. um, i- in terms of democracy, do people actually govern? Do they rule? Is it all about majority or is it about who's in power? Like all these social aspects um, play a huge role. And are there any social ills? What is going on within society? Is there anger? Is there frustration? Is there happiness? What caused the war? What caused an outbreak? You see, all these things make they hold a very important solid structure or aspect when it comes to social, because it's not just events that happen, people make the events happen. So that social aspect plays a huge role in us understanding events that have happened in the past and how they are happening now and affecting our present and also our future. Right? You got it? Good. Let's move on. First off, let me just apologize for the dogs in the background. I have no control over that. That's nature. I live in a suburban area and dogs will be there because we live in South Africa. So please excuse the background. There's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, let's move on. Economic. Now, economic aspect deals with how does a country make its money? How are you as an individual making money? How are you putting food on the table? It holds so much value and is very important. What are the aspects that assist your country to trade nationwide? What are the aspects that help your country trade internationally? All these questions, all these aspects, all these concepts are very important to a country. Okay, what products does your country sell or produce? Okay, what and are they selling it locally or internationally? What are the profits? Where are the profits? And where do those profits go? And how much debt does your country have? And how are they paying it off? So, all these questions are so important when it comes to the economic value of a country. So, even in your essays, you need to think about that aspect. How was that country making money? Was that country in debt? Because most of the outbreaks that happen when it comes to war or a revolution is because the country is in debt. So people get frustrated because they're hungry. People are hungry. When people are hungry, people get angry. So it works hand in hand. I'll go back to the French Revolution. The French Revolution happened because people were hungry. Okay. And most countries now, in the times that we're living in, we are hungry. We're not just hungry in our stomachs, but our souls are hungry. Our minds are hungry. We are not free economically, and it all boils down to land. Do you have control over the land that you walk on? Do you have control over the seeds that you plant? Do you have control of the livestock and the food that you consume into your mouth? And I know with most people that answer is no. But let me not get into it fully. I'm just giving you an idea of how economic aspects do really play a huge role in how a country is run, how a country is governed, and how a country makes its money is very important. Because if you are in debt, can you, as a country, can you imagine the interest that is accumulating? Hmm? It's a lot. So we have to be wary and be educated about our economic value as a country. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Right, we get to the intellectual aspect. Now, the intellectual aspect deals with the level of education the country has. You know, your education is so important because it's knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation. And we need to ask ourselves, is it um, conducive? Is it relevant in a global aspect, not only just for the country on its own? Is it, has it improved or is it remaining stagnant? Like, what is the level of education that your country has? It plays a vital role because knowledge, guys, is power. If your knowledge is not in par with wisdom, you have the potential of leading a country astray. I mean, I could say a lot about South Africa because our education system is a flippin' joke. And I'm going to talk about that more in the next slides. Let's go. Right. Now, this, it cuts me deep. It really does because I hold so much value to education. And the lack of intelligence that we are experiencing as a country in South Africa, it's an absolute scam. Even the kids inside the schools are not even bothered by the education. That's why there's so much gangsterism in our schools. You find schools, they won't tell you this, but children are having sex in school. Um, Children are drinking at school. They are engaging in drugs in schools. And you have to ask yourself, how? How does that happen? I'll tell you how. Kids are bored. Kids are bored. Okay. If the education that they were receiving in the classroom was actually stimulating to the mind, they'd all be in class. Trust you me. I never had bunkers because when I was in class, my kids knew that I would ignite something in their minds. Now, what we face in South Africa in the classrooms is that we have teachers that have no passion for what they do. It's a few that you will find, especially the young ones. But now, what's happening in the education system? We still have the old people sitting in the same classrooms, holding the same positions that they used to have 10 years ago, not allowing the young people to come up and actually experience and have more experience in the teaching field. No, it's always a competition against the old and the new. I mean, come on. If you're tired, stay at home. Stop regurgitating information. You yourself as a teacher, you don't even go and research what you're teaching. You don't even understand what you're teaching. For example, the business teachers, why don't they have a business of their own? I mean, they have the knowledge, so why don't they have a business of their own? Why doesn't even the government allow teachers to have their own businesses? Example number two, when it comes to maths, most of the time, they don't even allow you to create your own formulas. It's in certain schools and in certain platforms where they will allow you to create your own formula through the ones that you have been given and practiced all your lives. But instead, you must just remember a formula, regurgitate it back to your teacher, and then that's it. I mean, come on, that is so boring. Our true nature is to create. Now, the knowledge that South Africa's education, since it is lost according to 148 countries, due to a study that was conducted about 9 years ago, it still hasn't changed. I mean, how do you pass with 30%? How do you pass with 40%? Huh? Are you going to go to a lawyer that knows 40% of their work? I don't think so. Are you going to go to a doctor that knows 30% of their work? I don't think so. You're not even going to go to university if you have a 30% on your report. So why is our government perpetuating that nonsense? Even in varsity, you have to have 50% to pass. You can't pass near 49%. That 1%, it counts 50% and up. But in high school, in primary, they teaching you to be at a low level. Now that's another way of actually secluding you from the education system so that you guys don't even get to varsity anyway. Another thing, you get to varsity, you get your degree, and then boom, unemployment. I mean, what the fuck, man? What the hell is going on in this country? Even like you the kids, I mean, as parents, if you're gonna watch this, ask your children what they learned that day. They can't even give you a summary of what they learned because why? They cram, they pass, and then they forget. Go back to Bloom's taxonomy. You cannot aim to forget your work because if you're forgetful, what are you remembering then? What knowledge do you have in your memory bank? What kind of knowledge do you have? And can you even turn that knowledge into wisdom? Because wisdom is what you need to operate as a human being. So, and why can't children sit in classrooms and say, "Ma'am, one day I want to be the minister of agriculture. Ma'am, one day I want to be the minister of education." Because they don't make you aspire to be that. The education system that we are under is just creating workers, workers, workers. Modern day fucking slavery, if you ask me. I'm so sick and I'm tired of this country and the level of intellect. We are lacking in our intellect. We have no knowledge of self. We have no knowledge of our surroundings. We have no knowledge of another person. Hmm? So, what exactly is our education system? Angie, I'm sorry, dear, but you need to step out. That wig of yours is the same thing that you are producing in our education system. Dry, non-fitting, very outdated, and very much oppressive and and secluding of so many learners that could be going to varsity. But because a lot of things have been included in varsity in terms of technological use, I mean, even in our education system, our kids are still writing on paper. They're supposed to be typing using technology because that's what you're going to be using in varsity. That's what you're going to be using in the workplace. Why are our children still using pen and paper? Huh? They are not being taught to be tech savvy. Why? Because they want to use them as slaves in the factories that they're going to be building probably in the future. Hmm? Come on, man. Somebody got to do something about it. I'm going to damn well do something about it. I just need the funds. There's a school that's waiting for me to be opened because we need schools that are modern. We need schools that are going to elevate our children. We need schools that are going to teach us our children skills that are going to enable them to be better citizens in this country, not just workers. Do this, do that. Our country is depressed because the kids that went to varsity thinking that they're going to be elevating their families are sitting in call centers. Come on, man. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. And you, young person, you have that responsibility for yourself to actually stand up and be great in the education system. Take your education seriously. Take the knowledge that is being implemented into you and turn it into wisdom instead of just regurgitating it and then forgetting about it. You're going to remain a slave because you can't create your own ideas. Other people are always going to come and lead you. Wake the fuck up, man. Damn. Now, social ills. Oh man, the social aspect in South Africa is absolutely disgusting. And it's a reflection of our education. The youth is under attack, guys. Alcohol. The whole of South Africa needs to go to an AA meeting. You know, when I was growing up, I only saw people drinking on occasions. Maybe it's December. That's why people, December drives them crazy because then they can drink. But now, every single day, everywhere I go, I see men and women holding